Here we are at the beginning of the game, in the grungy bathroom at the Toluca Lake observation deck, with empty beer cans, blood, broken mirrored glass carpet the floor, posters advertising a strip club enter James's subconscious as he heads back outside to reminisce about the woman he had killed 3 years prior and clearly doesn't have her body in the back of his car. Anyway, this Heaven's Night place looks suspicious. Let's start the investigation there. Much nicer. I've long compared this section to Pete's Bolorama because of the atmosphere and music. After completing the overtly monotonous and repetitive apartment buildings, to see neon-lit signs mixed with a safe, enchanting soundtrack is inspiring. Although there's a counter by the exit, James doesn't acknowledge the selection of alcohol, nor does he take an interest in the environment at all. But by heading back to the lobby, James can interact with a random crate of liquor bottles. It's here where this mystery presents itself, giving us a backstory into his worsening relationship with alcohol following the death of his wife. Liquor bottles. I don't think I need that right now. It's not that I don't drink. In fact, I drink a fair bit to get away from the pain, the loneliness, but the drinking never changes anything. Anyway, I don't need it now. There's something that I have to do. Judging by this dialogue, it's obvious that James turned to alcohol as a coping mechanism, presumably during Mary's initial hospitalization, but persistent after her bedridden terminal illness became irreversible. Rather, well, she was painfully kept alive for profit despite her inevitable death. From the perspective of James, loneliness means his late wife, of course, but also his fascination with the nurses during these long hospital visits. The suggestive appearance of the nurses that we fight, their heads being a representation of Mary's swollen head underneath the pillow that James killed her with, and the name of one song in particular, show some of these intrusive thoughts that eventually became his motivations for doing what he did to her.
The truth is, I hated you. I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
With that out of the way, the investigation has begun. Is alcohol really the main point of Silent Hill 2, the driving force behind our story and the town's efforts to bring out James's guilt while under the influence? Or is this just a one-off interaction? There's still 2 other bars in Silent Hill, Bar Neely's and Venus Tears. Let's head over there for a pint and maybe stop by some other points of interest along the way. There's nothing else here to explore really. We can come back to Heaven's Night as Cheryl in Silent Hill 3 and find the same sightseeing brochure that James finds in the Woodside apartment buildings. That's cool, but who on earth is Roger Widmark anyway? I should make a video on this guy. Unlike Heaven's Night, Neely's bar is completely optional, although you are expected to come here before the Woodside apartment for the key location. It's the only shop in the Grand Market, or all of the eastern side of town for that matter, that can be entered, symbolizing James's obsession with alcohol as his coping mechanism. Furthermore, you'll be greeted with the most unsettling message in the game upon returning at night. We'll get to that later. It looks about as decayed as the bathroom, to be honest. While James wanted comfort, all he got was empty counters, concrete floors, and a message on the wall telling him to kill himself. After playing the game multiple times and grasping the depravity of his mind, I almost feel bad for him here. The first message can be seen from the very beginning. There's a hole here, it's gone now. As notorious as the game itself, with many contradicting speculations on what this actually means or the context associated with it. Many people familiarize this sentence with the other implications of holes relating to the sexual frustrations of James or Angela's abuse at the hands of her dad. But because we're inside of a bar, I've always preferred to see this as James drinking away his problems. In this case, he's simply filling an emotional void that Mary left him with alcohol, trying to fix the hole that cannot be fixed, as quoted in Heaven's Night by him. The drinking never changes anything, thus giving credit to exactly why Neely's bar is empty, because alcohol was always the problem. Later on, instead of looping around the Mexican restaurant for the tool, a stop by Neely's bar once again will exhibit flashes of James's self-loathing, found while reading the second message on the adjacent wall, as if someone purposely wrote the disturbing message with a giant red pen. If you really want to see Mary, You should just die, but you might be heading to a different place than Mary, James. It's clearly like a deep cutting statement directed at James, but why has it manifested in such a way at night when only a fraction of the player base would ever encounter it? With no hint of its existence and none other like it, one can only theorize. When I was younger, I liked to believe that this was Laura with her crayons, making it the only literal act of judgment in the game. I figured since she drew the cute animals on the concrete walls near the apartment exit, so she must have written this heartfelt yet venomous message to James after fleeing the hospital and making her way here. The time frame matches perfectly, and it explains why she's nowhere to be seen in the Historical Society. She's also the only character who knows Mary's name, besides James, unlike Angela or Eddie who don't. Laura briefly discloses Mary's name to Eddie off camera, but he doesn't seem to care, nor would he have remembered for long anyway.
Did you find the lady you're looking for? What's her name? Mary?
The reason why it's discredited is because Laura doesn't get to know about the murder. She doesn't find this out until the very end of the game, but at no point does this message mention this. It has implications of suicide, heaven and hell, punishment, reflection, and even alcohol-dependent hallucinations, but it's never objective. With that being said, it's quite clearly a display of our own subconscious. To clarify further, I believe that subsequent visits to a bar is basic symbolism for alcohol dependency. That's why this strange message only manifests itself the second time. Every day, James would have made numerous trips to his local pub after his wife passed away, trying to end the pain, the loneliness. This dependency led to heavy alcoholic abuse and hallucinations of the women that he loved, beautifully written letters on nothing more than blank pieces of paper. The town let him here so he could crash his car into the lake with his wife in the trunk. I've already gone through the symbolism of car crashes in my Nathan Avenue video, but by walking straight out of the front door of this bar, the dangers of drunk driving are immediately apparent when he encounters the nearest car and notices his own dead body on the street. It's no coincidence that this road also shares its name with Neely's bar. I think that's all we can dissect of this place. I do love the occasional hypothetical story, but there wasn't any concrete evidence here to help facilitate the investigation. Next is Venus Tears, a personal favourite of mine and one of the most detailed environments in the game. Because of the plaques and the assortment of lures, it means that they also serve the locally sourced seafood caught from Toluca Lake in addition to alcohol. Digging around further may shed some light on James's past and his previous visits while Mary was still healthy. The jukebox is the first thing that anyone will ever notice because of its blinding lights. We can try and interact with it, but it appears to be broken unfortunately. Nothing substantial. Let's take a look at the display. A display of lures. It looks like fishing on the lake is a popular activity among the tourists. I'm no good at it, so I never tried it when I was here. I would have guessed that James had at least some experience with fishing because of his OK rowing technique, but apparently not. As we saw with the boat launch near the Historical Society and this dialogue, fishing and tourism were another source of Silent Hill's economy behind Michael Kaufman's drug empire. When we listen to Mary's dialogue during the opening segment, it's more likely that sightseeing and photography were more their thing. But did they ever drink at Venus Tears? Did they even drink at all? Well, there's one final piece of dialogue by the counter. This can only be examined from the front, and I'm not sure why. Until recently, I didn't even know that this secret dialogue existed. The counter. Mary and I shared some nice drinks together at this bar. Sometimes it seems like so long ago, and sometimes it's just as if it were yesterday. His memory of sharing a drink with Mary is so vivid, likely due to its continuous misuse lasting until the present day. As we know, his alcohol-induced episodes didn't suppress his past, they only ever made it stronger. This bar is absolutely gorgeous though. I understand why it's sentimental enough for James to reminisce about the good old days. The dialogues in Heaven's Night and Neely's bar are overtly depressing, even spiteful at times, but in Venus Tears they're more melancholic, coming from a place of content right before the final revelation, where the bar has now become dark and flooded with water, and any ounce of solace have been completely submerged, with all but one dialogue option still remaining. So with everything out of the way, I want to take one final look at a few obscure facts or areas of importance that stick out to me, or otherwise relate to the topic of alcohol. Back here again. Okay, I didn't stop by Pizza Blarama to talk about the infamous pizza mystery, or the fact that it's the vibiest area in video game history, but take a look at this. There's a drinks machine near the back. The texture quality may be quite low, but we can make out some of these brands I think. The bottom right is clearly Coca-Cola, next to it is Sprite, and at the bottom left I think is Diet Coke. The rest of these brands I can't really tell, but the top row could be comprised of alcoholic drinks. The reason I say this is because there are similar cans at Heaven's Night and in the public bathroom. James even acknowledges some of these. Finally, there's a very strong connection between the observation deck bathroom and a pub bathroom. The antics of James in the mirror are reminiscent of a drunk person trying to collect their thoughts before deciding to drive home illegally. When combined with the evidence we already have, such as the Heaven's Nights posters, the empty beer cans on the floor, and the constant insinuations of car crashes on Nathan Avenue and outside Neely's bar, this confined, dilapidated room could have been the first manifestation created by Silent Hill to gather intel on James, and to subconsciously paint a picture of Maria in his head long before she was physically constructed. Silent Hill 2 has many subjective meanings shaped by individual experience. I love the in-water ending because it was always decisive enough to bring closure to James and Mary's story in a way that the others do not. I don't think that there is an objective truth to Silent Hill 2. But my perception of this game after playing it so many times is that it's essentially a public service announcement about alcohol dependency. Everything else, including depression, loneliness, or disassociation, can be considered byproducts in my opinion.